Today's film is brought to you by the letter V and its Visiting Hours from 1982. So this is the 2014 edition from Scream Factory on a double bill with the movie Bad Dreams, which I've blocked out actually because it tends to annoy me when there's a movie that I don't care for that's on it. I have not watched Bad Dreams per se, but again, with others from Scream Shout Factory, I wish that they would just put these movies on a standalone release for those of us who are particular about our collections. And the audio and the video presentation of the movie looks pretty good. There are some interesting supplements. If you take a look, the Visiting Hours emblem is on the center there, and Bad Dreams on the left. The interviews are interesting, informative, and there's a couple of creepy trailers and TV spots that make the movie look cooler than it actually is. Visiting Hours is the chilling thriller starring Michael Ironside as Colt, a misogynist with a deep loathing for feminist journalist Deborah Ballen, played by Lee Grant. Her boyfriend is played by William Shatner. After what he deems to be an extremely offensive interview on television given by Deborah, Colt goes to her home and attempts to kill her. But before he can finish the act, the police arrive and take Deborah to the hospital. At the hospital, Deborah meets a friendly nurse played by Linda Pearl. Colt, living in isolation, is an ardent commentator on men's rights issues and has a penchant for hurting women. Disguised as a flower delivery man, he enters the hospital to get at Deborah, but not before killing a few people along the way. Later, he meets a blonde girl named Lisa, and they go to his place. At first, she's agreeable to the kinky and playful attitude that Colt has, but she begins to freak out when he's too rough with her. Colt pulls out his switchblade and attacks her. It turns out that Colt's disdain for women comes from his childhood, where we see in a series of flashbacks that his mother burned and brutally scarred his father. Lisa goes to Colt's apartment and trashes it. She finds dozens of photos of women. Colt has cultivated what is called a death mask, photos in the shape of a skull showcasing his brutal kills. Lisa goes to the hospital to show the nurse the photos, and the nurse recognizes some of the women as patients. And then, just then, the nurse gets a creepy phone call.
Who is this?
Terrified, she runs home to check on her daughters.
Deborah?
Colt stabs her, terrifies the children, and leaves. Still aching to kill Deborah Ballen, and with the hospital on lockdown after numerous attempts to break in from Colt, he injures himself with a bottle, breaking his arm on it so that paramedics can get him inside of the barrier. Meanwhile, the cops are zeroing in on Colt, but they're unaware that he's already been whisked away by an ambulance. Inside, Colt goes on the prowl for Deborah once again, and a long chase scene ensues with many jumps and scares, and finally, Deborah gets the upper hand on Colt. And that's the end. Visiting Hours is a rather dated thriller, as most Canucksploitation movies are, and the anti-woman bent in the movie gets to be tiresome after a while. The movie is long for its type, and it could easily have been trimmed down to 20 minutes, to have 20 minutes cut from it. The camera lingers for a very long time over the murders, and it becomes, no pun intended, overkill. The movie is strictly run-of-the-mill. It's highlighted by a cool-looking poster, but it's completely a B-movie caliber. All the actors give lukewarm performances, with the exception of Michael Ironside, I will say. He does give a good performance in portraying an unhinged man. I always thought he was kind of an underrated actor, sort of a poor man's Jack Nicholson. But he manages to keep Visiting Hours to be a little bit more entertaining than that of the typical 1980s slasher movie. That's all for this time. We'll see you next time when we go to the movies.